Speaking of partisanship hurting America, there's a study just recently released and reported to NPR that confirms that, yes, the most divisive aspect of contemporary society is our politics. Now, these findings were co-written by Shanto Iyengar, who is a political scientist at Stanford University, and Sean Westwood of Princeton University. Now, they wrote, quote, unlike race, gender, and other social divides where group-related attitudes and behaviors are constrained by social norms, there are no corresponding pressures to temper disapproval of political opponents. In fact, political hostility toward the opposition is acceptable, even appropriate. Partisans therefore feel free to express animus and engage in discriminatory behavior towards opposing partisans. Now that makes sense, right? I mean, we can see the results of this on a daily basis in our media and our interactions with each other on social media. If you've ever dropped by a conservative page, or if a conservative dropped by a liberal page, you would know exactly what these two gentlemen are talking about. So already, I want to get your opinions on this before I get into more information. Haven?
Well, I find this study is rather interesting because it reminded me of this Bill Maher episode with Alexandra Wentworth. She grew up in Washington, and one of the things that she was trying to point out was the fact that there's this shift that's happening in that city where there's more vitriol there, and I think that spreads out. You know, including the story that we just did previously. You know, there's this stage that's being set where political opponents are no longer people that disagree and then, you know, have dinner together or go to a movie together. These are people who are, you know, hardened enemies. These are people that very much hate each other now, and
like
that's
they're destroying America. Exactly,
and it's, to me, I don't really see any facet where we as citizens are trying to, you know, stop being so emotional, stop being so hyperbolic and crazy about our points, and just be rational human beings and have a conversation. I don't really. More and more of us are trying to live in neighborhoods where the people that we don't like or don't think we'll like don't even live with us. And you can really start seeing the divide even with this race that's going on right now. You know, the gerrymandering is really showing just how juxtaposed we are to each other and how much we're willing to fight to the death for something that we probably shouldn't even be fighting to the death for in the first place.
Yeah, I totally agree with Haven. I mean, I try to get on this like liberal show, and as a libertarian, and they won't even let me on. They won't even let me have a conversation. So Jeff, if you're out there, what's up, man? Just let me on the. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm gonna take a contrary position to this survey. Maybe it's mostly based on an anecdote, and by an anecdote I mean myself. Like, I don't really care about people's individual politics, and most of the people I know don't like know anything, like don't know a lot, or more accurate, and they definitely don't ask other people what their opinions are. Like, I take a bunch of like political classes, and there's people who don't know like what Brown versus Board of Education is. How many Supreme Court justices are there? What are the two parties in power? These are college classes. So, like, I don't see that politics really dividing everything, and I get that's a school setting where people are meant to associate with each other and all that. But, like, I don't know. Maybe because I don't live in, like, I live in, like, a theoretically mixed area. Like, it's a metropolitan area. The most major metropolitan area, by the way. So, like, I just don't experience that in my day-to-day lives, and there's much more reasons to hate people than politics. Like, if you're wearing a uniform that says police, apparently you hate all minorities. So, like, there are plenty of like reasons beyond politics to hate each other. We just have to work hard to find those other reasons to hate each other. And about the government being more divisive, I think that's a good thing. Like, the government they've been working together too well to screw us over in the past, and a little bit of, throwing a little sand on that, I think is totally awesome.
But China doesn't throw sand on that. That's them fucking us with corporations is probably the only time you'll ever see a Republican and a Democrat agree. So it doesn't really help us. It distracts us so that they can continue to shove that dick up our ass when we get through another economic downturn and bubble. So it's like, I personally don't see the value in being so decisive, because now is not a time for decisive measures and vitriolic speech. Now we're facing things where we need to be cooperative. You know what I'm saying? Like, global warming and the sea level rise doesn't give two shits whether or not you are a Republican, Libertarian, or Democrat. If you live in a coastal area, it's going to flood your home no matter what you are. So it's like,
let me build on that.
Let
me build on that with more of the research before we go on. It says, according to the research, political partisanship influenced decisions and behavior not only inside the voting booth but outside it as well. Partisanship is a political and social divide. It's also been a key indicator of interpersonal relations. For example, there's a greater tendency by parents these days to raise objections to a son and daughter marrying someone who supports the opposing political party. And it also says in the summary, while Republicans view fellow partisans as patriotic, well-informed, and altruistic, Democrats are judged to exhibit precisely the opposite traits. And that's really what you were talking about right there, Haven, is we've got this divide where you think that these people think that because you're a part of the other side, you are the enemy. And that's a problem when you want to govern together in a divided government. But
the thing I want to point out is we've had the bad bipartisanship for years, and right now we have like the really, the so-called super polarized system. But like out of that, you're seeing issue-based coalitions like Cory Booker and Rand Paul teaming up on reducing mandatory minimums, Justin Amash and a lot of progressives teaming up on the NSA. Even when the establishment is like fighting each other hard, like, to me, that's a great thing, even though they still go hand in hand to screw us over in the end. But, like, that causes more renegades in both parties. So in the national level, that's a great thing. And the fact that the people, like, see each other as, like, weird features, like see people who vote Democrat as bad people and vice versa. If they're a Democrat, they see Republicans as bad people. They're just, like, that's just dumb. Like, I will date anybody with any political view I want, except if they're pro-life, because accidents happen.
Well, my thing is, it's like, so what if, I kind of have like a really hard time agreeing with what you just said, so I'm trying to like hold it back and be respectful. It is not
don't be shot.
It is not good for them to be fighting like this. Sure, it gets renegades, but there are not enough renegades to run a Senate. There are not enough renegades to run the House of Representatives. So it really doesn't do shit. You have renegades who can flower us with 15 minutes of this nice bill that's going to get watered down, pissed on, used as some kind of battle cry to do the exact opposite that we want to do. I mean, the renegades are rendered useless. And that's because of how evil they see each other now. And nobody's going to do anything about it. Compromise is the most important thing that we need in our government right now. The ability.
And right now they vote too much for the person who goes along with that rhetoric and says, well, this side is evil, vote for me, I will oppose them at every turn. Go ahead, Tom.
Jeff, can I make a point, a case for extremism real quick? Can I be on the total opposite end of the spectrum here?
You going to play devil's advocate?
No, I'm totally for extremism. As a socialist Democrat, I am for extremism. Ted Cruz's extremism and my extremism. Why? Because if you have people who believe in the middle, our two guys, like Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz, should push to the middle to get something of what we want. Not so somebody's fucked over, usually that's what does happen in politics. But if you could get two guys, total polar opposites, pushing pushing for the extreme, that will force the moderates, so-called, and the people of the party, elites, so-called, to come together to make a grand bargain, so to speak. That's how we should be coming from this. Now, extremists are bad. No, hail the extremists, because with that, it's like shoving, pushing a child out in labor. You have to have that type of extremism, otherwise nothing will get done. Look at the shutdown. Let's take the shutdown for an example. Cruz did it, shut it down, and then made everybody come to realize that's so bad we don't want to have it again. So we're going to do an 11-hour agreement. So they were forced to actually agree on a budget. Now, without Ted Cruz doing that stupid-ass thing in the stupid-ass way, we wouldn't have that. So I'm sorry. You could say, he's bad and his views suck, and that's all fair and good. But I'm happy for the likes of Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz, because otherwise nothing really would get done. And all we would get is screwed.
Oh, well, okay, I'll have to push back on that. They didn't exactly agree because it was a good idea. Ted Cruz was embarrassed, and the rest of the party turned on him. You ask Cruz today, he'd be like, shutdown is a great idea.
Well, no, I'm not saying for the reasons that he did it were good or just. I'm just saying that extremism can force people who will not do something with the other side to do it, to shut the extremist up, or to give them what they want, whether it's good or bad. And that's why there are good cases for them. Now, on my side, I love Bernie Sanders. And I could say probably, well, maybe not Sean, but everybody here probably loves Bernie Sanders, not so much Ted Cruz. He's considered an extremist, far-left extremist by the right, like worse than Obama. Picture it. So the case can be made for Ted Cruz coming not on our side, but you know what I mean. Where a good case can be made for that, to get a consensus where this party bickering never ends, and that's the only case I'm making for extremism.
Well, I mean, as a veteran, I will say from the bottom of my heart, I don't appreciate Ted Cruz and his bullshit extremism, because every time he wants to shut down the government for shits and giggles, people like me who are dependent on like their post 9/11 to come through, or maybe their paycheck if they're active duty, we get screwed over. People who work for the government get screwed. I'm not for anybody who is willing to do a grandstanding gesture in order to rally up his base. So it's like, and I don't really care for Bernie Sanders either, because it doesn't make sense to have one crazy side and then the other crazy side, and then somehow we're gonna go to the middle. That's not how life works. Sometimes.
We also got, if you can look at what happened too, we got a shitty deal out of it too. So it's not like
I know we did, and I'm not
defending.
Please don't.
The shutdown was a great.
I'm not defending.
Idea. It wasn't. It was terrible.
I'm not. It was shit. The whole thing was shit. Please don't think I'm defending it. Maybe I'm saying it in the wrong ass way, the way he did the wrong ass thing for it. But what I'm saying is, when these morons won't get off their ass and do something, sometimes it takes a little extremism, like Occupy, like movements like that, to force the issue. And that can be a good thing if it gets something good and gets a good deal. 9 times out of 10, it's the crap deal. But that's politics. And until we get Wolfpack or something else to change that we have to deal with the reality of it. And that's I come to accept the extremists.
Well, we can all agree on one thing. In order to stop a lot of this extremism, you got to get the money out of politics.